I asked a guy one time, it's been many years ago, I said, what did your television cost? I knew he was a great television watcher. He said $400. I said, that's not true. He said, no, I paid $400 for this television set. I said, well, let me tell you what I think it's costing you, because I know what kind of talent and skills you've got. I think it's costing you about $40,000 a year. Not to own it, but to watch it. It's not owning a television set that's expensive. It's watching it that's expensive. What else could you do at that time? One, if you've got plenty of money in terms of lifestyle. But if you haven't got plenty of money, what if you took the television time and properly employed it by learning a couple of extra skills? No telling what would happen to your income. I mentioned this to this guy. He got so inspired and convicted with my little talk there that he had his brother-in-law bring over his pickup and haul away his television set. He said, well, you could just take it away yourself. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do it right now. Come and get this thing and take it away. He said, I've got a new philosophy. I'm going to take my TV time and turn it into fortune. See, all it takes is an idea, and it doesn't have to be that radical, but he wanted it to make a statement. Let's get this thing out of here. And later, he had another television, but now he learned to shut it off and use time wisely. But at the moment, he wanted to prove to himself that he was ready to do something radical. Said, Jim Rohn is right. This television is costing me a fortune. Not to own it. Owning is cheap. Watching it's what's expensive. So you just have to learn to ration the time. Television is useful, but you got to wisely use it. It's like food. You must wisely use food. In leadership, we teach enough food to be healthy and gather strength, and no more. So you just have to learn the no more, make that your philosophy.
My assistant's got a great thing now in this. Once in every 4 months, somebody sends an email saying, I've got a huge startup that I want you to invest in, but you've got to sign this NDA, right? Which literally every time gets an email back that says, F you, right? And the reason is, I'm a humongous believer that ideas are shit and that execution's the game, right? We've all got ideas. Everybody's got ideas. Do you know how many ideas we all have here? We could probably sit here for the next 2 hours, draw them all out, record them, and predict the next 78 great startups over the next 9 years. And so I think the thing that is another theme in entrepreneurship is there is way too much fodder brought to the idea. Uber was Magic Cab 3 years earlier. Uber is not an idea. Uber existed. It's called Magic Cab. But the guys that executed it sucked, so they lost. So I think, if there's any level of romance left in this room about your idea, I'd like to suffocate it. Because I think the actual situation is what you actually do with it.
So I'm bringing up this failure, this quitting. I'm bringing this up to you now because, giving up on that video made me realize that I need to focus more on my YouTube videos. My head's been really focused on Beam and on family and all these other things happening in my life, but I still get all these crazy ideas, and instead of investing a bunch of time to realize those ideas like I used to, I try to rush them, and it always leaves me with something that's unsatisfactory. So I'm just bringing all this up to you now to let you know I'm gonna be giving my videos more focus and more attention, because this is kind of the only thing that gives me a tremendous sense of fulfillment in my career, kind of in my life, beyond family and stuff. And I miss that. I wanna get back to that.
Beating the self-esteem drum for 50 years. Oh no, you're okay, you should feel good about yourself. Like, you're fine the way you are. It's like you think, well, that's a calming message for people. It's like, no, it's not. It's not at all. And I watch my audiences, it's like, it's full of people in the audience who think, I'm suffering a lot more than I think is tenable. A whole bunch of it's my fault. My life is not in the order it should be. I know I'm doing 50 things wrong. It's like, what the hell's wrong with me? What's wrong with the people around me? This is really serious. And some, well-meaning person comes up and says, you're okay just the way you are. It's like, no one wants that message. It's like, no, I'm not okay the way I am. I'm not okay at all the way I am. I know that. And so, when I'm speaking when I'm speaking now, I say to people, well, you're nowhere near what you could be. That's the positive message. It's like, yeah, you're a mess, but you don't have to stay that way. You're a mess, you know it, obviously. You're suffering away like so much you can barely tolerate it. It's like, that's okay. You could do something about it. And that's the thing that turns the lights on. It's like, you could do something about it. It's like, oh.
I really think creativity is important, whatever you do. I think it's fun to be creative with meals that you cook or meals that you eat or vacations that you go on or dates that you set. I just think it's fun to be creative. Everyone likes that. And I think authenticity is just super important. I might be hyper aware of it because I grew up in an industry that's wrought with inauthenticity, that people will look you right in the face and totally tell you what you need to hear at the moment. I don't think that's unique to that industry, but it's filled with it there. So I think transparency and authenticity is just super important. I don't mind having conflict with someone if we can then be done with it. It's that years spent where you know that something's going on and you're not talking about it, those awful Thanksgivings with the family of cousins. Where you're like, hey Jim, hey Neil. I hate that. Life's too short for that stuff.
Well, I think impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. When someone tells me it's impossible, I always just look at them. Anybody around me knows that they can't do that. So that's part of it. But if they didn't know me, it's your opinion. Then they'll say, no, science shows. And I say, yeah, and how many times has science showed something's impossible? Now science shows it's possible. Things are impossible until somebody does it. And so I find that, most of your business people, you look at businesses and what does it take to make a business grow? It's not impossible to make a business grow. A business has been shrinking for a long time or it's been stuck. The real problem is always, the chokehold is always the psychology and the skills of the leader. Always. And 80% of that is psychology and 20% is the mechanics. Like if you don't know how to read your financials and you're trying to fly the plane of your company, I mean, come on. If all you do is go down and you look at profit and loss and you see what it is and you have a beer, either way, you either celebrate or you get depressed, something, you're going to be in trouble, right? But if you have the skill sets, that's one thing. But you can get any skill set if you have the psychology. And anytime a business is not growing, it is not because it's impossible. It's because they aren't innovating, and they're not innovating because they're believing it's impossible. I mean, if we all know what does it take to transform, I obviously tell people it takes 3 things to create a breakthrough in anything, in your personal life, in your business, anywhere. You need a strategy. But that's not the first place you should look, and it's the first place all of us look. Me too. It's our inherent thing. You want to lose weight? Well, how do I do it? I want to grow my business? How do I do it? It's instinctive. We've been trained to think that way. But the problem is the how-to is usually not that complex. I mean, come on. 70% of America is 75% of America now is overweight. Is that because it's so complex how to be fit and strong, right? Only the 1% know the answers. They hide it from you. You have to work your ass off to not hear what it takes, right? And so I remember I went to a TED Med Center and I watched about 12 doctors, one after another, get up and do these stories about how we could just get patients to take their medications and try to figure out the whole thing. And I was just looking and going, you're all talking about strategy and you've forgotten psychology. Because strategy is wonderful. I'm a strategist. I spent my whole life figuring out strategies. As we both know, a strategy could save you a decade, right? In business, strategy could save you, it could make the difference between success and failure. But most people have strategies available, or they could get them, or you could create them. But the problem is you got a story. And your story is why it isn't working. And the story is, I've tried what? What? Everything. If you tried everything, you'd be fit, right? If you tried everything, you'd be profitable. If you tried everything, you'd be there. But people say it, I'm big boned. That's what I used to say. I'm still big boned, but I'm 38 pounds lighter than I was 25 years ago, and I've never gained it back, right? When I was big boned, that was my story. All the good ones are gone. That's why I'm not in a relationship. Or they're gay and I'm not, or I'm gay and they are, or whatever the story is. There's always a story. And what I tell people is, if you can just divorce the story of your limitation and marry the truth of your unlimited capacity, then the whole game changes.
I definitely see this, everyone seems to have this aspect of rushing, like rushing to get to the next step and rushing to make a certain amount of money. And when I think of goals, I don't necessarily think of specifics. I just think of more of feelings of how I would feel when I get to that. What is my success and how does that feel like? Instead of saying, okay, I want to win this amount of titles and I want to win this amount of Grand Slams, or I want to earn this amount of money. I think that always, I think more of the feeling. How am I going to feel when I win match point? I visualize it. I embrace that feeling and I carry it with me.
Like you visualize it all the time or in the moment?
I think moments, and I think it always comes when you least expect it. Sometimes you can be on a run. Sometimes those long plane rides where, you know, it's sunset and it's just you and you've been traveling and you're going home and you have no one around you, just yourself on the flight. It's just hundreds of strangers next to you, and you have this moment where you start thinking of why you're doing this. Why are you lonely? Why are you in this position? And you think of what you've already done to get there and where you would like to see yourself go. So those moments always come at a different. I don't sit down and I think, okay, right now I'm going to visualize the feeling that I might have when I win a tournament or but I think it's important to when you say things, or you know, when a friend of mine says something negative and I was like, don't put that in the universe, like don't put that out there. I do believe in that. There's some sense of truth in that. Absolutely. Because it also comes with, then you carry it with that attitude. You know, when someone says something negative, you usually see their attitude change, and
it shows up in your body and your energy.
And I mean, I for sure do that as well, and I have my moments, but the faster you acknowledge it and realize it, the faster you can move on.
I worked most of my life. In high school, there was stewards cleaners. After school would go there, I would put the drape on the hanger, the sleeve on the hanger, and the janitor of all the cleaners. Clean everything up. I worked for $1.25 an hour. The only reason it was $1.25 an hour is because the steward had to pay that. It was required by law, or he'd be giving me 50 cents an hour. He was a very tightwad guy. So I come in one day after school, and he says to me to go to work, he says, Johnny, come here, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. Talk to the steward, he says, Johnny, I was upstairs yesterday and I napped after I finished working. I was tired and I dropped my watch on the floor. I put it on the table, went on the floor, and I went down, I picked it up, and I noticed under the cot I was laying on, there was no dust. I moved the cot. There was no dust. I looked behind the filing cabinets. There was no dust there whatsoever. Zero dust. You really are a great janitor. I said, it's my job to do what I do when I do it, not when someone else is looking. Tightest guy in the world gave me a 25-cent raise to $1.50. Where I went to high school, I was the highest paid kid and maybe adult in the neighborhood. We didn't have a lot of money in those days. What it was if humans can imagine doing what you have to do when nobody is watching you, you're doing as if someone is right there watching you. And in your free time, you're not trying to elongate something. You're doing what you should do without people watching you do it.
Honestly, I think everyone is different and unique, and that's a good thing. It's not bad. It's kind of the best thing in the world. You don't want to be like everyone else. Growing up in high school and just junior high, just your whole life, really, either you have been taught to feel like, or you want to be like everyone else because conceptually you'll be included and you'll be like the crowd. But when you think about it, when you look at people like Lady Gaga, who is so crazy and so different and so unique, and her whole message is about, you know, being yourself and being okay with it. And the reason she is so successful and so is because she's talented, because she's different. If she was just like Britney Spears, or if she was just like Nina Dobrev, then there would be two of us, so there'd be nothing special about that. So I think what's special is the fact that you're different, and is the fact that you're unique, and that you can bring something to the table. So if anything, embrace that uniqueness and that thing that you have that no one else does, and expand upon it and make it better and tell everyone about it and be confident in it. Because if you're confident and happy and smiling, you will attract confidence, happiness, and laughter.
If it were easy to get what you wanted in life, Google would have already figured out an app. You would just type in, okay, I'm a student and I want to go from being a student to being successful. And Google would tell you, go to college, then you get your master's, then you land this killer job, and then you put in a bunch of FaceTime while you're checking Facebook. Then you get promoted to manager, and then you realize managing people kind of stinks, and then you keep climbing the corporate ladder. And then you start to wonder, well, how did I end up here? And then you went, well, is this what success looks like? You're like, no, I'm going to go to Jay Hilburn. That's what success looks like. So keep this in mind. If there's something that you want, like 7 people, or a trip to Africa, or you're going to make it to Mexico in the pink shirt, I'm looking at you again, sorry. I'm watching you. And rooting for you. Keep in mind this. Here you are. This is what you want. I spend a lot of time on lacrosse fields, although they don't really look like this. You tend to think that what you want, you just march right towards it. But if in sports you march right towards the goal, what happens? The defenders come in. And what the defenders are is it's your brain saying, ain't gonna happen. So the second you start moving toward that thing you want, be ready. You're gonna tell yourself you don't feel like it. You're gonna have to force yourself. It's happening. There's no way to get around it. So what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna basically get bounced around a lot. All over the place. And there are gonna be a lot of times that you feel like this was a really dumb idea to start this business because it's gonna get hard. And I wanna remind you about something. Unlike a sports field where there's an in and out of bounds, the great thing about life is there actually aren't any. And it's usually in those moments where you feel like you can't do it, that you're closer than ever to having everything that you wanted. And I wanted to show you this so that you keep it in mind, because I think a lot of times when you look back, it's the darkest moments where you realize, holy cow, that's what projected me forward.
Look, if you want to be in business for yourself and free, you must learn to dominate. You cannot compete, okay? How many were trained this? Competition is a healthy thing. That message was not being delivered to entrepreneurs. That message was being delivered to consumers. There was somebody saying, look, the more oil companies we have, the better, because it's good for the customer, right? The more technology companies we have, it's not just Microsoft, the better for the customer. And inventions and improvements in products comes from competition. But if you're the one playing the game, you want to dominate the field. So look, here's the deal. I might be wrong in what I say, okay? I might be wrong in the things I do in my life and the business that I started. My family's told me not to start every business that I've been involved in, every one of them. Every one of them was a risk. Every one of them I had to take a chance. I remember my mom used to tell me, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'm like, Mom, you wouldn't do anything. Well, you wouldn't do anything except be the mother, a great mother to 5 children. My mother wasn't an entrepreneur. She didn't have my dreams. Just because she's my mom doesn't mean she dreams like me. Would you agree? Okay? My mom was wrong about everything she told me not to do. Love my mom to death. Okay? Unbelievable friend of mine. She was wrong. I needed to do those things. Okay? Steve Jobs needed to build this phone. Would you agree? Did he help a lot of people? Did he make some money while he was doing it? $119 billion in 5 years. In the bank, cash. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about done in the bank, sitting there, okay? Brings a great product to the marketplace. Domination or competition? Total domination. Coca-Cola, competition or domination? Total domination, okay? Exxon, total domination. You see what I'm saying? You want to be in a dominating point, okay? So what we got to do is we got to get you thinking. We got to get you thinking like the dominators think. How do they act? How does Warren Buffett act? What does Warren Buffett do with his time all the time? Those are the people I study today. I don't study the people that I went to school with, the teachers I went to school with. I don't even study my own family members, okay? I'm looking for people that are way up here that I can say, hey, what are they doing? Because they're doing it right.
I think there's massive confusion around entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship sucks. I mean, it's lonely, it's high risk. I mean, I can't live without it, but it's like a bad boyfriend, right? Or girlfriend, right? There's a ton of bad days being an entrepreneur. Not to mention 98% of entrepreneurial ventures are gonna fail. So there's gonna be a really bad day in your future. Hopefully not for you, or any of you. For me, I think this is a very personal question. I think it's how you're wired. I'm so all in entrepreneur, I prefer the pain. I think one of the reasons I love the Jets so much is because they bring me so much pain. I love the climb. To me, the setback is exciting. I love when something goes wrong. It's where I shine the most. But that's not for everybody. Right? I mean, it can be very difficult. And when you start affecting your life and your loved ones and all the other things, it can get real nasty. To me, the way I handle things, even in the few rare days when I really struggle, I take a real step back and make pretend that somebody called me and told me that my mother or daughter were killed. And I know that's very dark, and I apologize, but it's really what I do. I literally am able to, at my deepest, most struggling moment within business, take a step back and remind myself that I could make $1 trillion tomorrow on Bitcoin, and if something bad happened to the people I love the most, that it would mean nothing. And it very consistently rewires me very quickly. I just put business in perspective. At the end of the day, you know, it's money. For me, it's not really money, it's my legacy, so I get hurt by it a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I put it in perspective. It's money. And you know what? Up until I had a daughter, even while I was married, up until when I had Misha 4 years ago, I secretly wanted to lose all my money. I had this weird, twisted, dark fantasy of losing everything just to rise again like a phoenix.
99% of people that say stuff like that are not willing to do what it takes to make their dreams come true. The Marines have a saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And that's just real. At the center of bringing any dream into fruition is self-discipline. You know, something as simple as food and eating, it's not about your body as much as it is about your mind. It's getting command of your mind to be able to choose actions that are in your own best interest. Every day, we are choosing shit that's not in our own best interest. Right? So if the world is attacking you and the world wants to fight you and the world's trying to hold you down, so you're going to kick yourself in the balls? So you're going to stop yourself from getting what you dream. Self-discipline is the center of all material success. You cannot win the war against the world if you can't win the war against your own mind.
We live in the most amazing moment in time. So that thing that you have up here, whatever it may be, you want to use healthy eating to cure your diabetes, you want to figure out how to take care of the elders and start a new hospice center, you want to move to Africa and build a school, guess what? You could walk into a bookstore right now and buy at least 10 books written by credentialed experts on how the hell you do it. You could Google it, and you could probably find at least, I don't know, 1,000 blogs documenting the step-by-step transformation that somebody else is already doing. You can find anybody online and cyberstalk them. You can just walk in their footsteps and let them, just use the science of drafting. Follow what everyone else has done, because somebody else is already doing it. So why don't you have what you want? When you have all the information that you need, you have the contacts that you need, there are probably free tools online that allow you to start a business or join a group or do whatever the heck you want. It all comes down to one word: the F-bomb. It's everywhere. You hear it all the time, and I honestly don't understand what the appeal is of the word. I mean, you don't sound smart when you say it. And it's really not expressing how you really feel. It's sort of a cheap, shot to take. And of course, I'm talking about the word fine. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Oh, really? You are? Dragging around those extra 40 pounds? You're fine? Feeling like roommates with your spouse? And you're fine? You haven't had sex in 4 months? You're fine? Really? I don't think so. But see, here's the deal with saying that you're fine. It's actually genius. Because if you're fine, you don't have to do anything about it. But when you think about this word fine, it just makes me so angry. I mean, here we are at a conference about being alive, and you're going to describe the experience of being alive as fine? What a flimsy and feeble word. If you're crappy, say you're crappy. If you're amazing, say you're amazing. Tell the truth. And this not only goes for the social construct, oh, I don't want to burden you with the fact that I hate my life, or, hey, I'm amazing, but that would make you feel terrible. The bigger issue with fine is that you say it to yourself. That thing that you want, I guarantee you, you've convinced yourself that you're fine not having it. That's why you're not pushing yourself. It's the areas in your life where you've given up, where you've said, oh, I'm fine. My mom's never gonna change, so I just can't have that conversation. I'm fine. We gotta wait until the kids graduate before we get divorced, so we'll just sleep in separate bedrooms. I'm fine. I lost my job, I can barely pay my bills, but whatever, it's hard to get a job. And one of the reasons why this word also just annoys me so much is scientists have calculated, oh yeah, I'm coming down. Scientists have calculated the odds of you being born. That's right, they've crunched the numbers. I see you up there. They've crunched the numbers on you. Yeah, no, you guys standing up, you want to sit down for this. They've crunched the numbers on you being born. And they took into account all of the wars and the natural disasters and the dinosaurs and everything else. And do you realize that the odds of you, yeah, right here, put your computer away, stand up for me, Doug. So the odds of Doug here, turn around, say hi to everybody. The odds, of Doug being born at the moment in time he was born to the parents you were born to with the DNA structure that you have, 1 in 400 trillion. Isn't that amazing?
I'm so lucky.
Yes. You're not fine, you're fantastic. You have life-changing ideas for a reason, and it's not to torture yourself. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. And Christine was right when she said all of you could be on stage, because all of you, we're all in this category. 1 in 400 trillion. All day long, you have ideas that could change your life, that could change the world, that could change the way that you feel. And what do you do with them? Nothing.
Quick note out to all of you out there that believe that an open mind is important, which, by the way, I agree with you. I agree an open mind's important. You know the old saying, the mind is like a parachute. It won't work if it's open. But I want you to add one piece to that. If that parachute is wide open, you're falling straight to the ground. You understand what I'm saying? If it doesn't open, if the mind doesn't open, you're in trouble. If it opens too wide, you're a dead man bouncing or a dead woman bouncing. My point to you is this, okay? Most people do actually have an open mind. The problem is many people, they have a mind that's wide open with no filters, no gates, no protection. You listen to everyone. You listen to everyone on Facebook, everyone on Instagram. You listen to your uncle, your aunt, your mom, your dad. When the mind's too open, you get too much data and you go into confusion.
Enough. Like, living by somebody else's rules is a humongous mistake. I've just literally sat down with 5 people under the age of 27 and it's so refreshing. It is so refreshing. If you have not jumped on the bandwagon of doing exactly what the you want to do, which is skiing for the next 3 years or working at a job that's not what your parents want or what society wants, this video is just called Enough. Enough. Make this little 1-2 minute video, depends on when I finish, the piece of content that gets you to stand up and take life by its throat. Do something. Stop being scared. Stop letting the way you were raised, the fear as an offense, take that away. Let me be the person. I'll take the blame. I loved that some of my employees are like, my parents don't love what you're saying. Good. Parents, because if you are playing defense and if you are living a life where your kids' lives are the way you're being fulfilled, you're a loser, parents. And so enough parents imposing their way. You want your kids to be happy on your terms. Enough the kid that's sitting right now at a desk and saw this in a feed and you hate your job. Enough. Stand up, get the out of here and do you. Live your life. You got one life. Do something about it.
Well, it's dedication and hard work. This is my words, to dedicate myself 100% every time to be the position that I am today. It's not 1 year, it's 10 years, 12 years, to maintain my level. It's make me feel proud. As you mentioned, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. The number one, of course, I feel proud for that. But for me, the most important, it's to maintain my level in the pitch. To play good, to score goals, to do assistance, to win trophies, and this is what I want to keep continue to do it, because it's what I love to do. It is to play football and maintain my fans and my supporters happy. You have to dedicate yourself 100%. It doesn't mean how many hours you're training, but the way you're training, your dedication. You can have a training only 1 hour, but you give everything for that to achieve your goals. So this is what I try to do it in the trainings, in the games. Try to be better and better in my job. And for the last 7-8 years, I think I maintain my level in the same way. So this is make me feel proud, and I will continue to work hard to maintain that level.
A lot of you feel stuck because you're waiting for some kind of external force to either push you and pressure you to change and to be great and to be amazing, or you're waiting for somebody to give you permission. You're either sitting back because you need some sort of external motivation from somebody that's going to push you or praise you or pressure you in order to change, or some life circumstance, like maybe in your past you've experienced trauma or you faced something really scary and that was the thing that made you change. And then the second thing that people wait around for is permission. Look, those may or may not come in your life. If you are somebody that is sitting around waiting for some external force to come and do the work for you, that is such a losing bet, it's unbelievable. Maybe you'll get lucky, maybe somebody will come, but more than likely, no one is coming. The only kind of force that will truly create change in your life is you. The internal kind of force. I hate to say it, but for those of you that feel really, really stuck, and you keep thinking that somebody's got to pick me, or somebody's going to discover me, or somebody's got to give me permission to write this book, it's ridiculous. This is external versus internal force. And what you have to figure out if you're stuck is, are you the kind of person that is guilty of needing, wanting, and waiting for external forces, people, an event, some outside force to kick you in the ass so that you'll finally do the stuff that you've been dreaming about doing? I want to tell you something. No one's coming. No one. The people in life that get what they want are the ones that aren't waiting for an external force to validate their dreams, to inspire them, to give them permission. It's the people that realize that success, that happiness, that control, it comes from the internal force. And what is the internal force? It's you. It's you. It's you being able to realize that no one's going to do the work for you. It's you realizing that you're never going to feel ready. In fact, even as you start working toward the things that you really want to do, you're definitely not going to feel ready. And you're going to feel outside your comfort zone. And that's normal. When you start to feel like you're stretching yourself and you're sticking your scrawny neck out there and you're taking some risks, that's amazing, because you're growing.
I mean, there's so many mistakes salespeople make. I think you need to get down to like the main ones, but you're not selling the solution. I mean, even before that, though, I would say, Corinne, is the biggest mistake. People are not excited. They're not alive. They're not showing interest in the cycle, and they lose interest. I was in Barcelona recently, and I was looking at a watch, and the cycle didn't close. I could have bought the watch. I was qualified to buy the watch. I'm the one that walked myself in the shop on my vacation to look at the watch. I knew exactly the watch I was looking for. And when I left, my wife said, "What could he have done to close the sale. I said, well, he could have kept life in the cycle. He could have kept the cycle open. So what I mean by that is, look, if you're not interested, if you don't believe the cycle can be closed, it will not close. So the number one mistake I think salespeople, managers, and the store makes is they assume a close can't be had that day. I go into every cycle, every sales cycle with every prospect, every phone call, no matter how complex the sale is or how simple it is, with the belief that I can sell that product that day, this time, now.
So when we came to America, we were poor and broke, the way I looked at it, because we would always run out of money before run out of month. We decided, do we do without electricity or gas? Because some months we couldn't afford to pay both. And being broke is being without money. Being poor is being kind of scarcity-minded, poor-minded. And we just realized that money's for the rich. Money's for the Americans. It's for the people who were born here, who went to college. And that's how I grew up. And later, Jim Franco taught me that, hey, you know what? You can't be scarcity-minded. You have to live in abundance. You have to understand that people just want a solution to a problem, and they don't care about the color of your skin, about the level of your education. They want a solution to a problem. So he taught me, he had to break all these old patterns that I had, right?
What were some of the patterns?
Some of the patterns were that money's for the white folk and not for the foreigners.
You actually thought?
Yeah, I really, because that's how it was. Because every time we went and got more food stamps, it was all foreigners. There was no white people in line, at least not in the parts of Santa Ana that I was raised. And so I felt that money was for the people who were telling us to leave this country, go back to your own country. And that also puts a chip on your shoulder, right, against them. And so I guess I had some reverse racism towards white America. Now I realize for no apparent reason. There was a couple of idiots in every culture, I imagine, right? But so that was one pattern that I had. Another pattern that I had was that being proud to be blue collar. Like my dad was like, and he still says this, work is holy. And I believe that work is holy. But the fact that he had so many jobs, a paper route, pumping gas, worked at a pizzeria. And so because of that mindset, blue collar, we were always this blue collar mentality, and I took pride in being blue collar. Another pattern Jim Franco had to break was, he's like, dude, be white collar. Don't use the shovel, sell the shovel. I'd never heard that phrase before. I'm the guy that took pride in, I could dig a deeper hole, a deeper trench, I could outwork you, but that's still trading time for dollars. And so to be able to break those limiting belief systems that I had, to me, was huge. And all of a sudden I realized I'm no longer poor-minded. I may end up broke again. I do really well now, but I may make one or two bad decisions with my money or my investment and end up being broke again, but I'll never be poor. And I know how to get back from broke because I know how to add value to society, solve problems in exchange for money. But I'll never be poor again. And poor is a state of mind of feeling out of control, scarcity-minded, taking pride in being blue collar. No one should ever take pride in being blue collar, period. You've got a brain, you've got a solution to a problem that people want to pay for, put it out there.
So when you say scarcity-minded, abundant-minded, what do you mean?
Well, a scarcity-minded person says, uh-oh, someone else opened up a gym, across the street from me, they're gonna put me out of business, I better charge less, right? The abundant-minded person says, someone else opened up a gym across the street from me, I better out-service them, outwork them, out-social media them, right? So the scarcity-minded person is always, the sky is falling, the Chicken Little mentality, the, oh my gosh, if Trump goes into office, then we're all screwed. Oh my gosh, if Hillary goes into office, then we're all screwed. I don't care who's in office anymore. I control my own economy. The economy can crash and go back up and back down again. I will find a way. As Tony Robbins says, I'm built for winter. I just didn't know it. And so more people need to be abundant-minded in that if the economy crashes, I just have to deliver more value and create this category of one about myself. If competition shows up, I have to out-service them, outwork them, out-social media them, versus shrivel up and die.
How much rest? Enough to be healthy and gather strength, and no more. Why would you spend any more than just enough to gather strength and be healthy on both food and rest? But if you overindulge in food and rest, they become a detriment now, not a support. So I think if you look at things that way, let them serve but not intrude, it's like a television set. If you let it serve, fine, but if you let it intrude on everybody's time, The average family watches television, 7 hours a day? See, that's probably too much. It's not that the television isn't good, it is good, but it's too much time devoted to one fairly intrusive instrument in your house. So let it serve, not intrude. That's a good philosophy. I find if you come up with a philosophy and an attitude, it helps to set the tone of things you do, don't do, correct, rearrange, turn upside down, try it another way until something works better for you. I think that's good advice. How many stories do we hear now of some people that are addicted to the computer? The wife says, honey, let's go. And he can't let go. He can't shut it off. Then you know you've got a problem, right? So I think everything, doesn't matter whether it's alcohol or drugs or computer or being online. I found out, not from my own experience, but from others I know, it's possible to be online and off track. So you got to make sure when you're online that you're not off track. But it's not difficult to be online and off track in terms of time allotment, what absorbs your attention. If all of your thoughtful time is used for busy time rather than creative time, then the encroachment on your creative time is just probably too heavy. We need time to think,